from downtown Albany, Georgia, and the home of Pretoria Fields Beer, this is the No Dams Given podcast. And now, here's Trip Morgan and Billy Mann.
This is the No Dams Given podcast, episode number 5. And welcome, everyone.
Thank you.
Welcome, Joel.
Oh,
Joel's not here today.
Joel is not here today.
Special guest.
Poor Joel.
Double.
Joel drank too much at the brewery. He could not make it.
Yep.
No, just kidding. Go ahead, say where Joel is.
Joel is supporting Crime Stoppers at the golf tournament at the Flint River Municipal Golf course. So he is stuck on the golf course.
Oh.
What a rough
Aren't
day.
doctors supposed to be stuck on the golf course?
Yeah, so
Yes,
why
they
are
are.
you here?
There are. I don't know.
Beer salesman.
A beer salesman.
Todd and I can handle it.
We are into stopping crime, though, so Joel, we salute you.
No doubt. So we're starting this episode of the No Dams Given podcast. I'm here with Rashelle Beasley. She is the statewide president of the CVB this year.
Yep. the
Congratulations.
Georgia
What is that?
Association. That is all of the CVBs within the state of Georgia. So just like any other organization, we all need that collaboration with other CVBs so that we can help each other and bounce ideas off. And so this association was created so that CVBs could come together and bounce ideas. And with, tourism, it is ever changing on a daily basis.
So it's a pretty big deal to be president. Have you? Did you have to work yourself up in the organization, or
Yeah.
they just saw the skills?
Well, or it was last man standing, whichever you want to look at
You're
it.
the only one who didn't show up for the meeting.
Well, no, not really, because I do show up for all the meetings. I just want that to go on record. I'm not one of those that, is just looking to build the resume up and serve on a board. But I did feel that it was important to have someone represented from Southwest Georgia. This is the first president to come out of Southwest Georgia, so that's exciting.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
That's awesome.
I think so. But it's not about me. It's about Albany and making sure that, we get recognized and Southwest Georgia gets recognized. Actually, in Southwest Georgia, there's only a handful of CVBs. So it makes it, even more for us to drive each other. And
Why is that? Why do some...
because
No,
we're
not
such
it.
a rural area.
Okay.
When you look over at Newton or Camilla, Pelham, tourism is great there, especially in the way of agritourism, but they don't have the hotels, and tourism usually comes out of the hotel motel tax.
Right.
They do work with their chambers, so the chamber has to pick up, like the Camilla Chamber and the Pelham Chamber, they have to pick up where, tourism falls short there. And so that's just an additional role that they have to play.
Well, you guys kind of use those resources, too, because that's kind of what we are, the collective. So we,
Right.
We're for farmers everywhere.
That's
and especially
exactly
in
right.
rural Georgia. So y'all, I noticed that when y'all do your tours, y'all kind of try to tie in these other rural communities. So that's awesome.
Yeah, we have to make sure that with Albany, we are able to keep people here longer. So anytime that we can pull in Thomasville, Bainbridge, even Steel Pond over in Arlington and White Oak Pastures in Bluffton, that's going to create a longer stay because those are 30 to 45-minute drives away.
Well, awesome. Tying into that, we have another guest today that's
Todd.
over here sitting, waiting patiently.
See how I teed that up?
Todd
love
White,
it.
thank you for being here.
Hey, thank y'all for having me. Shoot.
So Todd is a Georgia-grown chef. What is
Georgia-grown
the
chef.
Georgia-grown chef this year, or
Yeah.
what? Come
Look
on,
in the mirror
don't
and
be
tell
modest.
myself
Tell us
that.
about it. Tell us about it.
I'm one of the Georgia-grown chefs this year. Chef Holly shoots the Georgia-grown chef. I'm one of her lackeys. But the rest of them are all up near Atlanta, and I'm the only one this way. So I got a lot of territory to cover.
Yeah.
Is that a shoal bass on your head?
No, that's just a big largemouth bass
I was
that
gonna
I
say,
got away. I love fishing. It helps me wind down. So I'll, whatever I can catch. It don't matter if it's a brim or if it's a shoal bass, largemouth bass,
Carp.
littlemouth bass. It don't matter. So,
I digress. So, so Georgia grown. We've done the organic thing. Is organic part of it, or tell us what is the?
Well, Georgia Organics is they're their own, not just community, but they have their own group, and Georgia Grown covers them all, really. It's art, from artisans to farmers to, people just putting out love into their products, and that's the best thing a chef could really get their hands on. So I get a chance to work with the most awesome ingredients, and it's just a tough job,
What do you like to make?
Shoot, I like just creating, really. This past weekend, I was able to go down to Jekyll Island. Didn't really have anything in my head. Everybody's doing shrimp and grits, so I brought a little salmon, but I got to use some really good gala grits, and I kind of grabbed from each vendor and came up with a few recipes and items, and showed love to our members, and then helps them sell their products, and helps them understand that there's so many more uses for their own products, and the community too. So it kind of shows off and highlights the goodness. So
yeah, cool. Go ahead.
I heard a rumor that you cook with beer every now and then. What kind of beer do you cook with?
Some of it makes it into the ingredients. Yeah. By the way, I'm going to need some more for October 5th. No, the flavors, I'm trying to build these flavor profiles off of them that can go into certain dishes, and they enhance them. I remember when I was 21, we started pouring beer onto our steaks and then grilling them, but I really didn't get a grasp on things until I really moved here and started cooking actually with Pretoria Fields beer. I used to always just drink them.
That's a
some spilled into the food, that was just
Yeah.
a bonus. But, just being able to highlight some of the flavors. We're coming up with a sausage, with some of the spent grain, and we're going to use some of the, I don't know, maybe use all of them. I don't know. I haven't added the beer to them yet to figure out which one I want to use in there, because they're all really versatile.
Well, next time you're gonna have to prove that you actually put it in there, because it's always, hey Billy, I need another.
Oh yeah.
I need another growler stout.
Yeah.
I need
Why
some
does
more
it
stout.
take 3 kegs to make a loaf of beer?
It gets me through the day, I'm a teacher.
Exactly.
It's just, you have to be able to consume it to be able to know what it tastes like.
So as far as the culinary art part of it, there is a chemistry to it. I certainly don't understand it. So teach me, what does beer do to food, or is it the yeast part? Do you add it at the end, the beginning? For the novice, can I just pour beer on my steak and it tastes better?
Yes. All of the above,
Does everybody hear that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Beer makes everything better.
Tastes
It
better.
does. You're looking at the flavor profiles of different beers. They all have their own flavors, so you can either enhance that flavor throughout a recipe, or you can add it to something. I like fish, so if I decide I want to poach a little fish, if I add a little bit of beer in there and maybe a little tomato juice, I can call it a clamato or whatever, with a little bit of lime and clam juice to go with it.
Man, it sounds like you need some Goza for that.
I'm going to need another case of Goza. And then, let's see, and then the Sholey IPA, we do some boiled peanuts with them, so we need another 2 cases for that. Peanut season's around the corner.
Taking notes, right?
The stout has a chocolatey flavor to it as well, so I can do so many desserts with it. And our beer cheese that we're making, we're going to pass on that good recipe come October 5th. We're going to do the beer cheese and the pretzels again. And I always have to have, one of the other ones to drink on while I'm playing with the other one. So, you can mix them all together and have your little suicide too. So,
Wouldn't you say that you get inspiration as you drink, though? So that's also another opportunity.
I'm not good
I'm just
at
trying to help you
drinking
get more.
and maintaining myself, but I can't really. I think it inhibits my judgment whenever I'm cooking, though. So I won't, I grew up watching Justin Wilson, so always a little bit of that, a little bit of here, but I'll enjoy one afterwards. but I'll taste it. You know, it's the difference between tasting, I guess, and then just really enjoying a beer. So, yeah, I can't really drink while I'm cooking because I know
I can't drink while I'm operating either.
Yeah,
And so I feel your pain. That seems like that would be bad.
It works well with tourism, though.
Speaking, what a great transition. So, Rashelle, what beer are you drinking today?
Skywater.
All right, and tell us about it. Why do you like that one? Or do you even like that one?
I do. Skywater is one of my favorites, but I will say that the Berry Gosa is another favorite. The Gosa with is it
Flowing well?
basil and lemon syrup added to it?
Yes, we did that in the tap room for a little while.
That was
We worked with
the
1821
jam.
with their bitters and
Yes.
came up with some concoctions.
I
You like
loved
those?
it. It was very refreshing.
Yeah,
Awesome.
Yeah, it was
sounds
good.
like some chefery.
Dang, you got my mind rolling there.
Glad I could help.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. That's what I like too, because you can get other vendors, like even other Georgia grown people, and come together on flavors too. Because it's all natural to me. You know, the flavor, and even a headache after, you know, some of the mainstream beers, you get a real headache. After these, you know, I can keep going the next day. It's the ingredients really. So I try to pair them up with other things. You know, it's that sounded awesome.
It was,
by the way.
yeah, it's really good. I love all of the beers though. The
Awesome.
stout's good. The IPA is just too much for me. That's the only one that I can't drink on a regular basis. But everything else, I'm a huge craft beer lover. So
That's what's great about us. We have something for everybody.
that's right.
They're all approachable in style, and that's kind of one of the appeals to
And they're
us.
good sipping beers, so that if you're not somebody who partakes in beer on a regular basis, if you sip on it, I mean, beer is mostly an acquired taste, but I feel like everybody can get used to it.
I've taken 3 sips of this Goza, and it's almost
all?
gone.
It's more like a gulp.
That's awesome. Cheers.
Cheers.
Which one are you drinking, Todd?
I'm all about the stout.
Awesome.
I love it.
Tell us why that was your go-to today, at least.
That's my go-to. Yeah, and I'll switch them up, but that stout is just that flavor, that chocolatey flavor. I don't know. It reminds me of I love Guinness, and I was warming up with some good stout before I went over there to Ireland, but I missed it, even drinking Guinness, and I didn't think I'd ever do that. So
Thank you.
y'all gonna have to edit
Yeah,
that part
thanks,
out.
It's a huge compliment.
We are not paying Todd today. I just want to make that clear.
I told Billy as soon as I had that stout, I was like, I am all about this stout. It was awesome. And, I can use it in so many different, to me, it's one of the most versatile for cooking. Because, even the ale, too, I'll drink all day long when I'm not working. But I will
Thanks for
drink
the
it because it's just a good beer. It'll replace any of those other beers for me, though. But even the flowing well, too, is I can use it more for seafood and things. I like them all. That's a hard question to ask, but
I meant more from the technical reasons, like from the cooking science point of view. Doesn't the fact that it has alcohol in it, the fact that it has yeast in it, don't those impart some things? Is that, I guess my thought was, is it a better marinade? I mean, do you marinade with the Goza for that, or is it something that you add while there's heat involved, or is it something that's afterwards? What, from the technical standpoint, how does that affect what's going on?
Well, I'll cook out. If I'm going to use it as like a brine, I can use it as a brine. But I'm going to add a little bit of sugar and salt to my brine just to be able to work with the meats.
So the yeast will add more alcohol. Let me get that up.
But then when I'm cooking it, a lot of alcohol will come out, and with some of them, I'll even reduce them down to give them a little bit more of a concentrated flavor of the natural flavors in them. Of course, the alcohol will leave, but you have those really good flavors left in there that just go well. And I was telling Billy, if next time I go to Jekyll Island, it's going to be the pearls from either the IPA or the ale that I want to do the shrimp and grits with. I want
So
to
the
go there and
Skywater
win it.
you do with shrimp and grits.
Yeah, I want to do these little. You can use molecular gastronomy and make these little pearls out of them, and put them in on top with the shrimp and grits.
Oh, super cool.
So I did it with
Show
Coca-Cola
them
for the
mouthful.
Beard House.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should have brought some
But
snacks.
I'm sort of getting the munchies.
it adds flavor. So when you bite into it, it's just a little burst of beer, you know.
Oh, nice.
So it's something I want to dip into even further for sure. Next year,
Yeah.
I'm going to be hope to be in a competition. So either way, I get to go out there and play.
Pretty cool. Well, let's get away from food for a second. Rashelle,
Wow.
what is the I know, right? What do tourists want to know about Albany, Georgia? What are our selling points, and how do you go about promoting our city?
Well,
Or
fortunately,
is that even your job? No,
It is.
Yeah. What does the CV? Maybe we should even start a little earlier. What does the CVB do? Because I'm not CVB.
yeah,
CV.
Convention and Visitors Bureau.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
what we do is our main focus is to bring people from out of town. Anyone who comes in and spends the night, but also those who drive into town. And, we want people to come, fill our economy with all the money and leave with empty pockets.
Sweet.
And we don't.
It's exactly what the brewery wants.
That's exactly right. And with that
Rashelle.
being said, we don't have to service visitors. We don't have to provide any type of services to them. We just provide entertainment. It's just like when the rest of us go on vacation and we just want to be entertained. They don't care about our politics. They don't care about, anything that's happened that we all as citizens care about. They want to come and be entertained. So our job is to make sure that we outline those resources with the Flint River Aquarium, the Civil Rights Institute, the Thronatisca, the Planetarium, the Albany Museum of Arts, and especially Cheehaw, our great zoo. A lot of people don't realize that 800 acres out there, and it has so many animals and so much opportunity.
And a splash water park now.
Oh,
right?
yeah, of course. That splash
welcome.
pad, it'll give some relief to the splash pad downtown that gets, 100,
Hammered, yeah.
100 kids in one little caged area.
And one adult.
and one adult.
So for the naysayers, we actually do have tourists.
Yes, the Welcome Center sees about 15,000 people annually, and that's deducting
Wow.
the locals out.
Yeah.
The locals, we do take out the locals that come in and sign the guest book. But yes, we do have tourists that come here.
So what's our biggest tourism event? Our biggest tourism draw?
First is Albany State Homecoming. That's about a $4 million economic impact annually.
Oh, sweet.
And it goes from Tuesday through Sunday. But the second is the marathon, the Snickers Marathon. And, that is one thing that
Who
not
organizes
only
that?
me.
It's me.
Just me. No.
And have you actually run the marathon?
I have ran 5 half marathons,
Yeah.
but I literally run hours.
Yeah.
Therefore, I cannot.
You can't
Run
run
it.
yours. Oh,
Yes.
okay.
It would take.
She sure yelled at me on the last little leg when I ran my half.
I'm good at making
really
sure
go.
people finish.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
But the marathon is a great community-wide event. It brings people together within the community because we have over 1,500 volunteers community-wide, and those are with organizations like Albany Tech, Albany State, Phoebe, many of the different churches to help us with it. And so when you're talking about that amount of people coming together for a one-day event, then you have over 1,500 runners coming from all over the United States, and then internationally, it's a great showcase for our community.
It really is. And when you run through the neighborhoods and everybody's out, in their yards with posters and stuff for people that don't even know, it's amazing.
Yeah.
I've talked to people that just came into town to run it, and they're like, man, nobody this place is so positive.
Exactly.
You gotta put that somewhere on the internet so everybody else in Albany can see it.
Can we get that in writing and blood and recorded? But one of the things that is great about the marathon is that it goes throughout our entire city. It's a full loop. It's not an out and back, and it gets to go through both east and west parts of the colleges, out into Doublegate, through the historic Ralston Circle. And, it's just a good showing of our community. And while everybody has, the certain parts of their community that they feel are less desirable, it's still part of the community. And so they get to see some of that. So it shows we're not a perfect town, but we're just like anybody else and much better in the way of, our marathon is one of the top 10 qualifiers for Boston. And that's a huge asset for us.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I did run the marathon one time.
Just
one? Yeah, I will probably never run it again because I think it took about 6 months to recover. I did finish. I finished, compare my time to Oprah. Oprah actually beat me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so
Go Oprah.
Kudos to Oprah.
Girl power.
But the coolest part about running in Albany was exactly what you said, was you run out, you run back through all the neighborhoods. There's a lot of, you really hit all the cooks and crannies of the city. So
Right.
that part of it was really neat. And it's not like I run, I do still jog, but it's not like I jog in those areas every day. So that was a lot of fun. And yes, and there were people out the whole time, and there were people cheering you on. It was a really cool event.
Yeah.
Like the city they come together, at least on the path of the marathon, to make things work.
And it takes a huge village to get it done. You've got, APD, the fire department. We have to have Oxford Construction, Reeves. Just everybody it takes, and the Department of Transportation, city engineering, all of these factors. The marathon is not something you can just throw together. It takes a huge partnership with everyone, and having the city's backing, for it is just one of the best things that we could do.
And weather doesn't stop it.
No, it sure does not. The monsoon, the year when the tornado sirens were going off, and it was very challenging. And but I was on the phone with the National Weather Service almost the entire time, and he let me know the sirens were fixing to go off, that it was in the east part of Albany that was a potential hazard warning for a tornado. And he said, so y'all are good over there. So I radioed all the water stations and was like, tell everybody keep running.
Keep running.
But the good thing is that was back when James Taylor was our city manager, and he had the city buses on standby, ready to go pick up whatever needed, whoever wanted
needed to stop and needed to end.
Exactly.
Right there.
He was prepared. And that was a huge benefit. But one of the other things it promotes is a healthy community. We've had a lot of our volunteers turn into runners, because you see all types of runners. I certainly don't look like a runner, but, because runners look different. It's not necessarily a tall, thin person. They come in many different shapes
let me
and
tell
sizes.
You. So there is every shape and size that beat me. So it was, the one of the funniest things that happened was a guy, and was, I'm probably on the 18th mile. I don't know. The first half marathon wasn't too bad, but then about the half of the next half marathon was awful. And so I'm sitting there, and I'm probably not doing much more than preventing myself from falling down. And this guy, he must have been 105. He comes running by, he goes, "Yeah, buddy, this is my 26 miler," and he just keeps right on going. Yeah, so he was like at least 20 years older than me, and went right. But you're right. So it's not short people. It's not skinny. So it's all different sizes and shapes that run. And
it's about
that's
endurance.
a cool thing. Oh yeah,
It's not
much
necessarily anything
different type
else.
of athlete. So yeah.
Then there's
It's
Billy.
fun though. And then there's Billy. I ran it with my cousin, and about like halfway through, I was like, "Hey man, what's it mean when your hands are going numb?" He said, "It means you're having a heart attack."
He's put down the beer,
and we just kept running.
Beer energizes and helps to rebuild the body. So
Hey, that beer at the end is like clutch.
It's
dude.
gold, isn't it?
Man, it's the best thing ever.
Yeah.
So it's a short walk to the brewery at the end of the marathon.
Exactly.
Yes,
Yes,
it is.
and we
Right
are really
downtown.
looking forward to that.
That's gonna be a lot of fun.
Yes.
So are you from Albany?
I am from Mitchell County, so I've always
The big
worked
city?
the big city, Sale City. If anybody knows where that is.
I grew up in Camilla, Georgia.
Yes.
So we're right there neighbors.
Yes,
Right there,
I'm a
neighbors.
little bit more country than you.
If
That was a
if it
song.
was possible.
So
Yeah.
Camilla was the big city that
That's
y'all went
right.
to?
Yeah. No, going to town was coming to Albany.
Yeah, that's right.
But
Going
I've
to
always
the movies.
Yes. I've always worked in Albany, though. Even I was a transplant, so I went to Moultrie. I graduated from Colquitt County, but I always worked in Albany. I drove from Moultrie to Albany. Of course, that was back when gas was like 77 cents a mile, or a gallon, and so it was nothing.
Yeah.
But so I've always worked and played in Albany. I wanted to go to school in Albany because all my friends were here. All my friends went to Darty, and so I just got to hang out with them. I didn't hang out much in Moultrie, but so Albany to me is home, even though I live in the country.
Mm-hmm.
But that's why my heart's here, and I'll always be here. And it's so much fun doing what I do because I believe. It's hard to sell things that you don't believe in and be
Well,
passionate
Albany's
about.
always been the center of commerce from Southwest Georgia. I mean,
Exactly.
since it was formed, it was the first city down here. Mm-hmm. And so, as the center of commerce, it was supposed to be a trading post to be able to get stuff down the Flint River. That didn't work, but it became a railroad post.
Right.
And since that time, it's centrally located. And like I said, when I was growing up in Camilla, this is where we went to the movies. This is where we
Right.
took a date. This is where, a good date.
Yeah.
So, because you did have 20-mile drives.
Well, I
so
mean, even in Moultrie,
you had all that.
Yeah.
They had 40 minutes of car time. so
Right, you went
bring
to
the
Albany for prom.
Keepers.
You had to
That's
come
right.
to
You
Albany.
go to Albany to the prom.
Yeah.
You go there
Yeah.
and then go back.
Yeah, exactly. You had to have a nice place to eat, and that was in Albany, always. So but I think that one thing Tommy Gregors mentioned yesterday to me, that he found an article from like 1890 something, and it was interviewing a Yankee who had come down and asking the same
Can
questions
you say that on radio?
you can.
Yankee.
Yankees.
But
Oh, I forgot we're in the South.
But they interviewed him about why he was here, what he liked about it, what he didn't, what thought we could do better, and the answers are exactly the same as what people say now.
No way.
Yes.
We'll go through a few of them because that's funny.
So, I mean, he was telling, and he didn't tell me all of them, so I just got a snippet, but he was like, what did you like about it? The people are so nice. Do y'all ever hear that?
Oh, yeah.
The
I
people
did.
are so
I
nice.
heard that.
Everybody's friendly.
Mm-hmm.
And then, what you could do better. Well, there's not a whole lot here. They could do better at building more business, and
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
It's the same thing. It's only 200 years later.
Exactly.
We're getting there. We're coming along. Come along. Hey, wherever you are, Mr. Yankee, we're listening to you, buddy.
Struggle's real.
It's real.
But I mean, it just goes to show that not much changes. Our expectations get higher, and the things that we want, to see, is still the same thing they wanted, just in a different magnitude now. And I think that that's one thing that we get stuck on here, especially as it relates to Albany, and constantly telling people, "Why are you here?" You can always change your tone and go, "So, what brings you to Albany?" versus, "So, why are you here?" It's all about tone. And find out why people are here. It will interest you.
Well,
it really will.
Positivity of the community. I mean, this is where you live, guys. I mean, this is our home. This is, for most of us, we're not moving. We're not
Nope.
leaving. So, say something positive about it. It only takes one person. It only takes one person to build something great. And most great things are done by very few. So choose to take what little part of your world,
Right.
and set it straight. And it doesn't have to be, it can be as simple as making your bed, but it can be as complicated as picking up trash on the street or doing some community service. So it's all up to each one of us individually to make the community better. And
Exactly.
that's a very good point.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it makes our job easier when our citizens are more positive.
Oh, yeah.
And,
Yeah.
but a lot of it is people don't know what they don't know. And there are so many people who have never been to Chi Hall, never been to civil rights, and they've lived here for 20 years or their entire life. And, there's
Well,
nothing.
we get caught up in our everyday
Exactly.
struggles. And so, it's like if I lived in Atlanta, how many times would I go to the Braves game?
Right.
So, I probably wouldn't go that much because usually when I do have time to go, I go, to something like that, even though it's a
Right.
couple hours away.
Right.
So, so you born here?
Born and raised, yes,
Born and
sir.
raised, born at Phoebe Putney.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or at the house.
Lord.
Or at the house. Or you born at the house.
On the car right there in the back of a Volkswagen.
Back in the dirt road. Yeah. We ain't making it.
In the barn.
We ain't making it. Get out of here.
She's wiping them off. No, born and raised. My folks brought me up in this town. I love it. I think I appreciate the small things more. And I don't know. Just listening to you earlier, I was thinking there. How back in the day it was MTV video killed the radio star. So I think that social media is probably it doesn't help Albany
No, you're
as
right.
what I see that I love out of Albany. As far as the people, the good, just good people in general. You've got so many places. I'll go up the creek and I can spend the day on the creek and be rejuvenized.
Right.
Just going out to Chi Hall and just remembering, as a kid going out there, or even going to Radium Springs, which, it could change every day out there. So
Yeah, it can.
it's just the small things that I love about Albany. So but they're not highlighted. They're not always highlighted like other people. They want something big and they want orange and red,
Right.
like fast food places. So highlighting those small things that really get us to stay here and love where we're from. Seeing y'all down here is really makes me love Albany even more with downtown. I love downtown. I can walk around and have fun and walk my dogs and take walks down the river. It's just a cool thing to me, and it's I don't know. I love it. I love it. No dams given.
Well, I know you left, Todd, and kind of shaped your skills and shaped your career. Tell us about going off and then coming back and what brought you back. I know you just said a lot of that, but tell that story. That's
Well, everybody growing up, everybody wanted to get out of Albany and go off to school and just get out of Albany, So, I got out of Albany quick. I got out and went straight to Hawaii. My grandmother, she was the one that inspired me to become a chef, but I didn't know that before she died, But my dad said, you know what, when your grandmother dies, we're going to move to Maui. Okay, Dad. We moved to Maui. And
wow.
we lived there about a year, but we realized that, I knew when I was over there, I'm a Georgia boy. What am I doing over here? It's a beautiful place. I'll
Yeah.
come back and I'll enjoy this later, We all moved back. I went up to, and then when I got back, I moved to Atlanta with two of my best friends grew up with, Hudson Bradley Rouse. And went there and went to culinary school with Bradley and trained at the Ritz-Carlton. Decided I wanted to slow down a little bit, so I moved to Savannah. And I was in Savannah for about 13 years working with Marriott, and I was working myself to death. But I knew that I was a family person. I knew that I wanted to see my kids growing up, and I figured my mom and daddy did all right because, hadn't been in and out in jail and everything, so moved back down here.
That's always
And,
a positive.
I moved
Barely.
down here for family.
Barely.
There's a
Escaped
couple of
justice many of times. But I moved back down here just because of family and friends. It's family and friends. I enjoy this area. I grew up here, and I want my kids to grow up to be the right people in this world. I don't want them to be what I see on TV. I don't want them to, I want them to have a core
Right.
that's correct. And I believe that starts here. And I love this town. It's given me the opportunity to be who I am. So I want to give back to my community. And that's what I do. I want to give as much as I can. Give and give and give and give till you can't give no more, And that's part of a song I like.
You're invested in downtown as well, just like
I am.
everybody else in this room. Tell us a little bit about that, you and your family, and y'all's ties with downtown.
My dad, he, originally back in the day, he wanted to get a little piece of land out off the Willacoochee, I guess, one of them little rivers creeks out there. But he decided to buy him a little building down here, and he's got a few of them. And me and my brother down here just working with him. So me, my brother, and my dad have a couple on Washington, one on Pine, and we just kind of play around and trying to revitalize those buildings. We bought an old building that originally, now my mama, we thought she was crazy when she wanted to name that building Skywater. And so we always said, "Oh, you want to name it Luke Skywalker?" We're just messing with it. So it's the original.
That's not Luke Skywalker.
It's
No.
not Luke Skywalker. And because she was looking at creek names, and this building on Washington is the first Salvation Army. And even we couldn't figure out what the little marble plaque on the side of the building was, because somebody came and just, that's been scratched out and etched out and everything. So we kind of saved these buildings. We're working slowly to get them back to their former glory, but being able to preserve some of the history downtown, which, I would love for that to happen more. I love with the brewery, with this
Most
building
definitely.
here.
Yes.
You have to preserve. You can't forget about
Right.
it. You have to, even if it's bad, you take the good and you leave the bad, but you have to be able to cherish what you got. Whether it be bad or good, you got to make the best of what you do where you're at.
Right.
And it's ours. I mean, it's our culture.
Right.
It's our history. It's,
Yes, sir.
It's our great whatever grandparents who were living here who created it all. And the fact that not having it torn down and then letting other people enjoy it, and then the building themselves, the artistry or the artisan work that went into it is so much different from now than it was back then, that it's just it makes it cool to look at. So I agree with you 100%.
And there's so much character in so many buildings, like the Albany Herald, when it was Rosenberg's. There's so much that's still in there. The where they used to send the money up, the tube.
The tube system.
The tube system.
Yeah.
And then the where it would land, the actual holders for the money was still in the mezzanine.
The big old safe that's up there.
Yeah, and the safes up there, all of that. I mean, it's super cool, and it's great character, and it's great storytelling. And we still, when I worked at the Herald, we still used the chute system because we would shoot our stuff up to accounting on the 3rd floor.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
That's pretty neat.
And that wasn't that long ago, by the
Shoot
way.
your story.
Back in the day.
Yeah, exactly.
That character is.
So as far as the character goes, what does Albany need to do to improve this whole well, I think two things. Number one, 15,000 tourists seems like a lot, but is there a goal as to what we want to do to build that? I mean, do y'all have projections each year? Is there something y'all want to do to grow it each year? Is that a bad question?
No, not at all. We focus our marketing around, and that's all that comes in the Welcome Center. So not everybody comes to the Welcome Center, and that's, but that's how many we track that come in the door to get information. But our marketing along through our strategies through Facebook and, the different shows that we go to, our goal is to bring more meetings, more leisure travelers, and more groups to town. And those are our goals to continuously build upon. We tailor, with the brewery and it coming on live, that gave us the more resources that we could draw from the new things, even from new exhibits at the River
So the
Aquarium.
brewery drives people to town.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, and you should find that, right, Billy? I mean, even those who come from not just locally.
Oh, yeah.
And, it also highlights the fact that, when you have the Hilton down there before the brewery, they had to get in their car and drive somewhere.
Right.
And now they actually have the opportunity to walk down here and have a beer and, enjoy.
Right.
I tell people all the time, especially our frontline staff, to remember to send people to places, especially if they're alone here on business, that they can meet other people in the community. And it'll be a friendly place. One of our favorite places was to send them to Harvest Moon, because you could go sit at the bar with anyone. Mm-hmm. You knew locals who hung out there,
right.
and you knew that the people there were friendly. So you knew to send people there, and if, especially if you could tell that they had a personality that was,
Sure. They're going to go make friends.
Yeah. And so they always appreciated that. We'd have people come back and go, thank you so much. I met so-and-so, and usually we'd know who they were. I'm not going to name names, but, I think that it's important. Yeah.
I met several of them, I guarantee you.
But
probably had to put many of them in the van to get back down here.
Probably.
Wrestle them in there.
But those things are important for our community, and making sure that we have that type of entertainment. We have 45% of the people that stay in our hotels are business travelers. So we have a large business traveling base, and those people can stay anywhere from a week to 3 weeks, depending on what they're here for. And if they're here for 3 weeks, they certainly don't want to stay at a hotel property all the time. So having the brewery and different places for them to be able to interact with the locals is really a strong presence for us. Mm-hmm. But it also gives them a sense of home and being able to bring their family back, and knowing that we have resources that they don't always have to leave their family during the summer. The kids can come with them. There's plenty to do here. Mm-hmm. So we
as
really...
As far as regional resources, we send them to Thomasville and we send them to Valdosta. And is that things that... I know you're for Albany, but...
Right, but like I
there's-
said, creating that longer stay, there's no reason why you wouldn't partner with Thomasville, with Plains, Americus, Arlington, all of the different things. We look for what the visitor's looking for, what their interests are. If they're interested in history, we certainly want to send them to Plains and to Americus and, to the...
Andersonville.
Yes,
and
Andersonville.
Little Grand
Thank
Canyon,
you. Yeah, all of those.
Cold Mountain.
If you think about it, we have all of the resources that people are looking for, from history to outdoor adventure. We may not have a zip line, but we can put you on an 8-hour trip down a beautiful river where you can see blue holes, you can fish for shoal bass, all of the many different things that you can't do anywhere else.
Awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah. What are a few things that you could see that we could do to help you achieve all of your goals and all the goals that y'all set each year? And I know you do a lot of conventions and stuff like that. So what are some of the things that we need to kind of focus on and improve?
Yeah, definitely. One of the things that we need improvement on, especially as it relates to bringing meetings and those type of things, being that the brewery's only open, from 4 to 8, maybe the brewery would be an opportunity for a breakout session room if there's not enough at the Hilton. We've got to get creative with breakout spaces.
Oh, cool.
And when we had Governor's Conference here 10 years ago, we've totally outgrown that because we have about 500 attend every year. But we had breakout rooms at the Bridge House, the Flint River Aquarium, the Candy Room, and over at Thronatisca. And we just had a bus that went around and dropped them off, and it worked beautifully. So having the opportunity to be creative in the way that we do things, and not just thinking that everybody wants to stay in a hotel convention space the entire time.
Right.
So we have the ability to be creative. And given those opportunities for receptions and those types of things, but also the agritourism piece is going to be a great opportunity for us. Being able to see where the beer actually comes from the ground straight to the glass. And that is a huge piece because a lot of people are interested in the homegrown and how it's made because we take it for granted here.
Agritourism.
Yes,
I like all the keywords.
I know.
In history, the history of Walker Station,
Oh yeah.
I was blown. I loved it. I love hearing about Walker Station, and that just added to it.
I've been here my whole life and never even heard of that whole planned community that never happened. It's pretty neat.
Amazing.
It's awesome, yeah.
Pretoria Fields is that glue.
Right,
of
exactly.
Life downtown for us, I think.
And it's Daugherty County hasn't had a huge presence as it relates to agritourism. We've always had to partner, with Mark's Melon Patch and, try to find farmers who would allow us to take people out to see how cotton's made. But they're a little bit protective of all of that. And their time is, limited as well. But, now we have the opportunity to really bring some agritourism here.
Times they are.
Tripp, I know you have a great
Yes.
vision of that. Why don't you kind of tell us some of your vision of how Pretoria Fields can be involved with that agritourism and tying in our farm?
So our first project and sort of the way the brewery got moved downtown, we were, and we've talked about this before, but we were looking for added value for a new farm that I purchased in Daugherty County.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've had our farm in Camilla for a long time, and I had a farm in Lee County. We were leasing both of them out. My dad had retired, and we were really looking for something to do out there. We had to change the zoning requirements for the farm, and after a long discussion on various things, and I'd been making beer forever, wanted to do, and Omaha had done well. That was the other thing. Omaha's
Yeah.
out in the middle of nowhere,
Right.
and they were doing well and had gained notoriety. I said, well, let's do a small farmhouse brewery out on our property, out in the country. And lo and behold, we had to change some of the zoning, and that turned into a circus. And then the city found out what we were doing,
Right.
and they invested in the brewery to move us down here. Now to get back to Billy's point, I still have that farm, and we still have a vision. We provide, the beer that, like, it's not the beer that I drink the most often, which is Sholey, but the beer that I'm probably the most proud of is our Berry Goza, which was right here and is now
Right.
gone. And it's because it's 80% Georgia grown. It's got a combination of blueberries and blackberries, which were organic, and they're hard as hell to make. It's hard as hell to get a good crop. I mean,
Right.
it's just a difficult process. The wheat was grown out on our farm, and there's not a beer like it south of Virginia and east of Texas. And so that is a cool thing to do, and it makes us different than any other brewery in at least the southeastern United States.
Yeah.
And so I'm proud of it. I think the region should be proud of it. I think Albany should be especially proud of it. I think it's something farmers can be proud of, since we have such farming heritage history and a continuation of our farming heritage in southeastern Georgia. And but we're continuing to do that. We're going to develop the brewery out there. There's several traditional farmhouse brews which are spontaneously fermented, Goza being one of them, Berliner Weiss. And please don't tell me that I messed up something technically, because I'm not a technical brewer. So if I say something wrong, don't correct me. But for the basis of it, we're going to do some of the more traditional farmhouse brews. Berliner Weiss, Saison, out at, and utilize what we're doing there, and we're going to do, and we in the next 6 to 12 months we will put the very small, farmhouse brewery out there, and we'll have 2 breweries in Albany.
Yep.
Yeah, that would be
we'll
phenomenal.
We'll all be down a similar path, but we'll have 2 breweries here. So that's sort of the vision for out there.
That's awesome.
That
That's
is awesome.
agritourism right there, right?
Yes, it is. I'll
Right,
never
right.
forget whenever it was the Monday after the bike race, and there was a car in the parking lot, and I was like, why is there a cyclist still here? So, of course, I'm nosy, and I start walking around trying to find them. And it was I can't remember his name, with Creature Comforts, and he was with Charlene, and I was like, "Oh, were you here for the bike race?" And she's looking at me, and I'm like, "Yeah, you gotta
race.
yeah, and we
we're
just
here.
had one, and you're here, and I see that your vehicle has a bike on it." And he was like, "No, you had a bike race?" And so we got to talking, but Creature Comforts actually now does the bike race, the Twilight. They're
Twilight
one of the
Criteria.
sponsors of the
That's a
Twilight.
cool
so
thing. Yeah, no doubt.
So hopefully we can get an opportunity to start a bike race again.
Oh,
And-
definitely.
That'd be really cool.
Oh no! I want a triathlon or quadrathlon bike race where we start down at the dam, and then we kayak down to downtown, and then we run around downtown, and then we bike out to the farm and bike back, and everybody gets cold beer back at the
Let's
road.
do it.
So
I'm all
Todd's
about
got
an
a pretty good
adventure
race
race.
idea for Pine Avenue. Have what was it we were talking about? Have a beer at the brewery, run down to your place.
And have a bowl of spaghetti. And then run back. I feel for
You gotta eat a 3-course
229
meal and have
flat.
beer in between every.
I like it. That's like the donut race.
We'll go ahead and tell Pace we're sorry in advance, because they'll probably be landing right there with the spaghetti.
Yikes.
Oh, that would be phenomenal. That would be a lot of fun.
Getting people out to see things, so the marathon, getting out bicycling is the way to see everything. When you're driving, you really don't get to see things,
Right.
So being able to really soak it in, that's a good thing. And going back to Ireland. In Ireland, they have this thing called the Greenway, and that's just, you can ride your bike from Waterford to Cork. So you're able to see everything. It's all railroad track, and they've turned it into just one long
Oh, what
bicycle
we're doing.
track. And that is an amazing thing, because it it highlights the breweries on the way, it highlights restaurants, hotels, things that really show off the area, and Albany's got that.
Yeah, the Rails to Trail system is, that project is moving along fast. And that's going to be a huge boost for Albany. It'll be a great addition for the brewery, because most people who cycle and run, they are in the craft brew family. Right. Those seem to be the demographics from what I understand. And with the Rails to Trail system, and with the trailhead being at Thronatiska, and it attaching, connecting Albany State, and then going on down to Radium Springs. And if you haven't seen what they've done at the old golf course, you should ride out there, because they have really done some phenomenal work out there to complete a trail. And they've done, it's beautiful.
So it starts at Thronatiska?
Well, it's gonna. It kind of starts, ends, whichever, kind of like the Appalachian Trail, whichever way you want to start it. But in
So
Sasser,
one end is
Sasser,
Sasser, and the other end is.
and then it'll come. There'll be trailheads all the way along the old rail system. There'll be a trailhead around. They're trying to get one around the Walmart area on Slappy, and then coming on down, there'll be one at Thronatiska, and then. It'll connect to the downtown trail here, and then it'll go down to Albany State, and then connect and go further down towards Radium.
Mm-hmm.
And so at Radium, they've created some dirt trails, if you will, around there. So it's about 1.5 miles, so we could have, a 5K out there easily.
Right.
And the way I understand it, you could be able to get on it at a bunch of different points, and then it's 10, 20 miles of continuous without having to worry much about traffic.
The actual trail, the Rails to Trail, the railroad portion is 23 miles.
Yeah.
And so then it'll connect to our trail. And so then as it goes down to Radium, following the Flint River, which, the mileage that way is a little bit longer than just going down Radium, but as it twists and turns. But it'll be a great asset.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Great asset.
So is that road bike or is it mountain bike?
So it will be paved.
Yeah.
So, you can do mountain bike. You could probably do road bike. I wouldn't put a $20,000 road bike out there on it, but you never know.
Who has a $20,000 road bike?
Are you serious?
You do?
Really?
You have a $20,000?
Oh no, I don't do cycling's not my thing. But yes, I mean the bike race that happens.
Yeah.
Oh yes,
expensive.
that's
I'm
just like
kidding.
an
I know they're
average
ex-
price.
I know they're
Okay.
expensive.
That's like an average. I mean, I had a
Oh,
guy wreck into one of the barricades and broke his collarbone, and he was more concerned about his bike that I had in both hands. And I do mean like one piece here and one piece here.
Literally both
And
hands.
he's like, my bike. And I'm like, but your bone. And he was like, find my friends to get my bike. Well, as you're loading him up in the ambulance.
He was delirious.
But yeah.
So, so we've talked a little bit about Paul Eames, and you and I have met a couple of times.
Mm-hmm.
So, how does the CVB? What is your role in that, and how are we? How can we revitalize Paul Eames?
A lot
I know
of,
what we're doing. What do you think?
a lot of, with Paul Eames and with recruiting sports, there's so many towns around us that have built some, Dothan, Alabama, Cartersville, have built some phenomenal properties, and it's hard to compete with things that are already there. And while yes,
When
we
properties,
have
you
the
mean multiplex sports complexes,
Right.
So they've got everything from lacrosse fields to tennis courts to swimming facility to what else?
to
Baseball,
the
baseball,
You
softball,
said tennis,
yeah.
basketball.
Soccer.
Lake Point in itself is
So
phenomenal. But there with Paul Eames, there's
good.
the opportunity to get people. Our high schools play out there, the colleges play out there, and so it's one of those things that we would be able to help recruit things. Keeping it up and keeping it maintained is definitely one of those things.
Has that been
and
difficult?
being everything grass in general in Albany is difficult.
Give us
Yes, it
a little bit of a history on Paul Eames, just in case. I mean, I know most everybody knows what Paul Eames is, but give us a little bit of the history while we're talking about it.
if
Which
you know
part?
it, if you know
You
it.
know it.
Well, I
Trip,
mean,
I'm sure you can give us a good
in
rundown.
in my experience, dates all the way back to the Polecats.
Oh yeah.
Those
And that was
were,
the team that it was built for.
That's
correct?
right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Albany has actually had, and I think Polecats was affiliated with the Astros. I'm gonna
No,
mess
the
that up.
Orioles one
The
year.
Orioles,
There was the
okay.
Orioles and the Expos.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it was the Expos the first year because Cliff Floyd played, and then the Orioles the second year.
Yeah.
I
so we
remember
were
the
actually single A,
It was
single A
South
minor
Atlantic League.
baseball.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
But then the Peanuts.
Yeah. I played Pony League out there.
and then it was named for Paul Eames, and Paul Eames, as some people know, he had everything to do with youth sports in Albany
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
for half a century.
Right.
I mean, he was just a super figure. I mean, everything trying to build up our. I mean, he was a Major League Baseball player, and had some great stories about playing back with Hank Aaron and those guys. So, but a really cool guy, and certainly the stadium appropriately named.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so we actually had minor league baseball here for a long time.
Right. And, with the Peanuts, we tried that again.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, a lot of interest got lost when we were trying to do the minor league teams because the Polecats were, from what I remember, successful. The Peanuts ended up not being as successful. I think that when it comes to youth sports, there has to be a focus and an interest that is consistent.
Mm-hmm.
I think that whenever I first came to the CVB, we had Dixie League championships here. Then Dizzy Dean started, and we'd had those championships here. And one of the things that I've noticed over the years is that people become involved in things that they're interested in and that they're vested in. Of course, cheerleading is that for me right now. It's my world.
Yeah.
But so
Yeah.
I would love to recruit more, cheer competitions here.
Right.
But and then so as the children grow out of it, so does the interest.
Right.
And I had, I was constantly helping. Again, I won't name names, but I was constantly helping, to bring Dixie in a week-long tournament annually here. And, and then the parents said, after this, I'm done. And so, whoever picks it up, and nobody picked it up.
Yeah.
And it's hard to get somebody because the CVB can only do so much with certain organizations because they don't allow us to carry those. It has to have a community interest. And just like an association, the fire department association won't host a meeting here unless the fire department's behind it. Or in front of it, should I say. And then we can be behind them. But it's one of those things that, there has to be a consistent charge for it.
Right.
And if that doesn't carry on and the ball gets dropped between the citizens and there's no one that wants to, let's say you have a parent that takes over and they don't care for Albany. And
part of it is, for 50 years we had one guy, Paul Eames, who sort of spearheaded all of it. Glenn was talking. Glenn Eames was Paul's son, saying that they had 50 girls softball teams or 50 different male softball team, like guy softball teams that played in the league just around Albany, and that's not counting all the guys that were playing Pony League baseball or playing with the Legion baseball, which he also helped to organize. And so you create that sports culture, and this is part of what leads into the other part that's difficult. You create a sports culture, meaning that kids and adults sort of grow up thinking that's normal and that's part of life, and then they go to the local single A, minor league team and support that. It's just kind of what we do.
Yeah.
But when you lose that call, you lose a figurehead like Paul, which I don't think anybody really picked up that banner after he's gone, and then you sort of lose that culture, and then it's hard to have the crowning star of that of all of that, which is the Professional Baseball Association. Right. So one of the things I've been working on and we've been working on is trying to get people interested in revitalizing and trying to get that, maybe create some sort of cohesion in the sports culture that's here, meaning rec ball, everything from rec ball, baseball to football to all of it. I don't think anybody would disagree that if we can get more kids playing sports at a younger age is a good thing.
Right.
That's just going out and running and getting rid of energy and concentrating on those things as opposed to almost anything.
It's about life too, about relationships.
That's right.
I see people all the time I played Little League Baseball with, and we still hug each other. 25 years later, like, hey, man. I still got a friend that comes around, he's like, hey, remember when I struck you out? I'm like, no, I think I got a hit that time.
Right.
But, it's lifelong friendships that you build, and you learn valuable skills, too. So I think it's a very important thing.
And there's a lot
and grow.
The trends are changing too, because the rec department, always had, registration for the adult, baseball teams and the adult softball teams and those things, but they stopped making. So you couldn't form the teams because people weren't signing up. The interest was being lost. And I think so much is being pushed towards travel ball and and I think
that doesn't affect
it's
the adult baseball leagues.
No,
Yeah,
definitely.
and I understand.
But it does as you grow older.
The travel part is just a weird sort of modern, and maybe it's not modern. I don't know. Maybe it's the last 10 years thing. But I think travel ball developed because when I was a kid, I was on a street, and then we played street ball.
Yeah.
We literally, there was like maybe 10 or 12 of us on that street, and during the weekends we didn't really have anything to do, so there was always a ball game. And I don't know if it was touch football or tackle football or stick ball or playing what's the little ball that's got all the holes in it?
Wiffle ball.
Wiffle ball.
That's
Yeah.
I mean, or we're playing in somebody's pool.
That's right.
But it doesn't seem like that stuff happens as much anymore.
And
So these things have developed as a like maybe almost parent reaction to, oh gosh, my kid can't, we're not playing sports like they used to, so let's do this other thing as an outlet.
And, I think that one of the things, too, is that, like, take Baconton, for instance. They have their own, youth sports association in Baconton. And they've had, some trouble recruiting teammates, teams for different age groups because so much travel ball. And parents are gearing towards travel ball. And the travel ball is being played during rec time now versus it not being, used to you would have travel ball when rec time was not going on.
Right.
And so now it's kind of turning the tide and replacing, and you've got spring travel ball teams and fall ball teams. And so I think it's just, it's taken over. But back to your point about Pauline's, we are, Albany State, we've been working with them for the past 2 years to bring the baseball tournament, and we got it, this past year.
The SIAC tournament?
Yes. And we were able to, get the field up to their approval to host the first one. And they, and now they're working on the fields now and, to host the next one. We submitted that bid for it. And I think that, there's opportunity there, especially since...
So we submitted a bid to do it again this year?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm. And then Cherie's interested in, hosting some other ball, I can't even remember the name of it, but different ball tournaments out there.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's
Cherie?
Cherie is the athletic director for ASU.
Okay.
And so we've been working, Joel and I both have been working strongly with her on, on
Joel's
those
playing
parts
golf,
of it.
right?
I don't know if he's done yet or not.
Joel drunk.
Joel is actually drinking beer on the golf course.
I
Hopefully he's having
highly doubt
Sholey.
that.
Joel. Sholey on the golf
He
course.
could be running from the alligator at the golf
He
course,
could
but who
be.
knows,
Don't let him get his hand.
Yeah.
But
Those alligators are friendly out there. I play with
Yeah.
them all the
yeah,
time.
yeah. He says he shows everybody's picture that's going out there, and then the ones who don't get shown the picture, he can't.
So the
help.
new Civic Center management, is that a good thing?
It's a great thing. Especially a great thing for Joel, our rec director.
Yeah, we're
So,
going for the Walker Station, baby.
It gives Joel the opportunity to go back to doing rec and not doing Civic Center. But the new management so far has done a great job. They have.
Sorry.
I know y'all are just like.
Yeah,
I'm trying to keep things
we
moving.
we do like beer.
I got night out.
So for those of us who don't know, what exactly does this new management company do?
So they are Spectra,
Spectra.
and
Aren't they the ones that are trying to kill Sean Connery or 007? Oh no, that's Spectra.
I think we had this conversation on the way over here. I don't watch TV or news,
Spectra.
so.
Spectre.
And it's exciting to have somebody who's in the business, and this is what they do. And
So
which
what do
is
they do?
always-
So do they is this the first time they've managed a civic center?
Oh no,
Okay, they manage a lot of civic
the
centers.
Macon complex.
Okay.
They have the Tallahassee. Do they call theirs a civic center or a centerplex?
Centerplex.
So
I don't know. I don't remember what it was called. I saw
But actually
Panic
they're
there.
my point was they're all
You
up
were
and down the
panicking?
eastern seaboard.
yes, and so they have the opportunity. We are in a good position that. They have these other centerplexes and civic centers. And so if they have acts that fit our demographics that are going from one to another, or they have the ability to kind of manipulate that travel and get a stopover for Albany.
Awesome.
And they have those great connections. And they're managing the civic center, the municipal auditorium, as well as Veterans Park.
The amphitheater, which
right.
is really exciting. And that's
Yes.
our first, that's going to be their next event, right? Is
Yes.
that the amphitheater?
Yes. And so that they are going, this will be kind of their first test run of starting the first Fridays. Or
Awesome.
Fridays on the Flint. I don't know if they called them Friday on the Flint, so it may not be the first all the time. But, it'd be great if it was every Friday. You remember those days, Billy?
We have ladies' night every Friday
Yes.
at Victoria Fields.
And trivia.
And trivia every Thursday.
I do like some trivia. That might be my favorite week. My favorite weeknight.
Oh, Shelby in my office will not miss it.
Oh, dude, I saw her yesterday. She's like, I'll be at trivia tonight. I was like, I know you will.
Yeah. She will not miss it. She loves it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I sit at a table with 3 or 4 very smart people, and we are actually beat by a team of teenage girls. So if you know
Wow.
all of the pop culture, then that's exactly the trivia for you.
You take away their phones before
Yeah.
you
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
We have a strict no phone policy.
Yeah, the ionization constant,
Tackle
it's
people.
not so much.
That's hilarious.
Um,
But I think that the Civic Center management team is going to be phenomenal. Their marketing person, Katie, is super sharp. Josh does a great job. I think that we'll see some positive things coming out of it. And, like I said, Joel's really excited because he can get back to doing what he's a professional at, which is Parks and Recreation. So, and he's hired new staff. And so he actually has a new community event superintendent that's actually going to help with putting on more community events.
Oh, wow.
So we'll make sure to connect y'all so that y'all can be a part of that. And then a new athletic superintendent who will be in charge of bringing more tournaments and working on Paul Eames and Gordon and, making sure that we can get some movement.
Gordon is really nice now. I don't know if everybody in Albany knows that,
Yes.
but all the renovations out there, we
It's
held several
phenomenal.
tournaments out there baseball-wise in the past few years, and it's nice.
It is.
It's
It's
a
a
really
great
nice
property.
facility.
So as far as downtown opportunities for the Flint River and I guess you already talked about the trails to a certain extent, but talk a little bit about how the river itself affects your ability to market downtown and just what are your thoughts on that? Because that's a big thing for us and for me personally being part of the River Keepers. And,
The river, 4 or 5 years ago when I became director of the CVB, the river became a huge focus for me. I thought that it was a resource that we had not monopolized off of and that was, really needing some attention. And it was, we're in tourism, you're always looking for a new product. And while it's not a new product, it became a new product for the CVB. And, Aaron Blair at the time was our downtown manager, and he and I just really, connected and were able to get a lot of things done. We had a lot of the same ideas, and our ideas really bounced well off each other. And we also became the two that if somebody told us no, we decided they were not the right person to be talking to.
that's a good attitude. That's pretty much my attitude.
Exactly. I knew you'd appreciate it.
No's not the right word.
Exactly. You're not the right
What do you
person.
think about that, Albert? No's not the right word, is it?
make it happen.
Make it happen.
Make it happen.
Make it happen.
That's right. So, our goal was we were putting kayak launches on the river. And we didn't stop. And everybody we talked to kept telling us it could not be done. We had to go through the Army Corps of Engineers. The list of people we had to go through was insane. Well, come to find out, you didn't have to go through all them people. But we did have to.
It's amazing how many people will tell you how to do your job.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
or how many negative things there are in front of you to be able to get something accomplished.
Or how.
It's more work. Paul.
Yeah.
That's sorry.
No, go ahead.
I work for the state, so it takes a little while to get something done.
It does.
So if it's out of their norm,
Yeah.
oh no, it's hard to get people to open up new ideas. So
Exactly.
If it causes them a little bit more work, and you have to get them on board with your idea. You have to sell them on it. This is why it's not going to be good. So get off your
exactly.
butt and get this paperwork put through or whatever. So you have to. It's a task. I understand completely.
Our last thing was somebody gave us this huge variance report we had to fill out. It was like 100 pages. Well, Aaron and I tossed it back and forth to each other. We were like, "Are you gonna fill this?" No, I thought you were gonna fill it out. I mean, it was complicated. Well, then I found out we didn't have to fill that out either. We just kept moving to different people.
Amazing. If you ignore paperwork long enough, you don't have to deal with it.
And then it took one person coming in my office needing a favor off of me. And I was like, well, you know what? I need a favor off of you. And the next thing
That's how bureaucracy. So, how to get through bureaucracy?
Yes.
Find somebody who needs you.
That's right.
Yeah.
And, so we went through the process. It was not as complicated as everybody made it out to be. Mm-hmm. And then
what was going to be because this is beyond me because I'm an entrepreneur because I see things so easily. Like you do this, and you do that, and you do that, and then it's settled. So what were the complicated parts of doing the kayak thing? I mean, how could that be complicated?
Because, well, first, owning the property. And then what are you going to build it with? It has to be able to float or it has to be able to be material. I mean, all of the roadblocks that people kept throwing in front of us, And so it was, the right materials, if you're going into the water, it involves the Army Corps of Engineers because you can't just get in the water with materials. And, I mean, it was just...
And you're a Sales City girl. You're thinking, that ain't right.
I know. Can't we just put some boards down there?
No, that ain't the way it works.
So
you drag it in and you get in. It's that easy.
And people
it's a kayak, people.
Well, people wanted to make it complicated as far, even talking to us about, where are people going to park? There's plenty of parking down here. Well, they've got to carry it. Well, they're used to carrying them. You can't just drive up to the bank of every river and push your boat off the truck. You just can't.
Are they going to cause big wakes coming down the creek?
Right. It was one.
Are they going to hurt the fish?
Yeah. Right.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, my gosh.
Anyway.
That was, the material has to be, natural or whatever. It's wood.
Yeah. Well, working through the bureaucracy usually has its benefits. So
it does.
I will say that it's worth the process.
And one of the things that I've noticed with it, one of them being right behind my building, is that it may not be used for a kayak launch very often, but it gets people next to the river. Oh, yeah. Kids are able to put their feet and hang off the dock, if you will, and put their feet in the water. Mm-hmm. And families go down there and hang out. It may not see a boat on a regular basis, but it sees people. And bringing people closer to the river then creates interest. And then after the kayak launch got put in, Phil Cannon, myself, Tommy Gregors, and Aaron, we hosted, along with Kayak Attack, a full-fledged free community come kayak. Mm-hmm. And we had 40 people show up. And do you know that 75% of them had never even been on the river?
Good Lord.
Could they swim? Because that would be...
There were several that could not, but we got life jackets.
You put life jackets on them.
That's beautiful. That's awesome.
That's
but
people out,
and it was people of all cultures, all ages. Awesome. One guy, bless his heart, showed up. This is how much people don't know what they don't know.
That's why I want to do my triathlete race, kayak,
adventure
from there to here, run downtown, bike out, come back, drink beer. Maybe that will make the last beer drink. Like, you don't actually end till you go in and drink a beer. So it's really
that's the middle time.
That's the
A bowl of biscotti.
A bowl of biscotti. And then so it's actually 5.
Yeah.
That's
but,
awesome.
that became our mission, was to get people closer to the river and to bring the river to life. And so now it is not unusual for me to look out my window and see people going down the river. And it is, you can imagine the joy that we have.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's phenomenal. It's not the most popular part of the river, although it should be. I would love nothing better than to somebody get a golf cart and have it hooked up with the ability to carry different kayaks and just run a circle through that rapid. You go get out.
That was my idea.
go
Take them
through-
tubes.
No,
get a golf
I
cart
just
down
said it.
here,
It was
take
not
tubes.
yours.
If you didn't say it, you didn't have
Actually,
that
you're right.
idea.
So she's right.
So, but
I think that's a
mean,
great idea. Go from downtown up to the dam. We put people in there, right where the confluence of the river and the what's that? The
see, I'm
Muckley?
even talking about just
come
enjoying
in?
the
Muckafoony.
rapid.
Muckafoony, yeah.
Muckafoony, yeah.
and then bring them, put them
Gates
in
open.
right there. They
Yeah.
come back downtown all summer long,
Mm-hmm.
all summer long, baby. And you drink a beer the whole time.
Yep.
That's probably not
But you know
safe.
you can tune down it too.
But when you're done, you can walk up to the brewery and get yourself a.
We
cold
promote
beer.
safety on the water.
We promote
At
safety
all
on the water at
times.
all
You got a
times.
motor on there, you all right.
But you know, we had a
There's no
couple of
motors.
guys come up to the Welcome Center with the little
With a net, with a
$5
couple of nets.
floats you can get at Walmart.
Oh yeah.
They had floated from the dam down to the Welcome Center on those $5 floats.
That's truly a no dams given right there.
They got out.
They give no damn.
No dams. Give no dams.
They got out at
That's
the they
the
got out at the
epitome
kayak launch, and so they walked up to the Welcome Center. No shoes, of course, nothing. They had their cooler, but
It was me
I
and
like
Joel.
know these folks.
It was me and Joel. I have to admit. It was
Y'all.
me and Joel.
the funny thing was they left the keys. So the keys to the vehicle they parked downtown was at the vehicle at the dam.
So did they Uber? Did they Uber back up?
That was before Uber.
That was before
a couple
Uber.
of years
That's
ago.
awesome.
It was hilarious. I was like, "What are y'all doing with those floats?" And they were like, "We just floated down from the dam." I was like, "In those?" And they were like, "Yeah."
Because that's awesome. Because Joe and I put the canoes in up at the dam one day. We fished and then floated down here and took out downtown, and we actually Ubered back up and grabbed our stuff. So,
Yeah.
so
I mean,
fun.
but don't
Yeah.
forget, Kayak Attack will do that for you. They'll actually park your car and
Yeah.
they'll pick you up.
This
and
is
take
about a
you.
year
I
ago.
mean,
So
you
it's
know,
probably
so
before then.
and that's the other thing. Since those kayak launches got put in, we now have 4 outfitters. So I mean, it's
Oh,
made
nice.
an economic
Yeah.
impact, generated
Yeah.
jobs.
Right.
You know,
High five. Give me some. All right there.
it wasn't
it,
all us.
Rochelle.
No,
Go Dogs.
definitely not. It was just a trickle effect. You know, I mean, it really
But
was.
They
it
showed
really
up.
does start with somebody taking the initiative to go through all the steps to get something done that they believe in.
Right.
Which is-
Exactly.
You know, which is how
And there's
downtown's
always
being
the
built
and
right
then there's
now.
always the idiot. That's probably not the best thing to say, but all of the paperwork that's involved and all of the process that's involved that's got to do and the naysayers and
Yeah.
like I said, it just takes one person with one vision to make a change.
That's
And
right.
So,
make it. Some people make it intimidating. I mean, that variance report was.
no doubt, yeah.
I was like, no.
And it's a lot of times, especially with you go to one person and you get black pearls.
Mm-hmm.
And black pearls are the pearls which don't have good information.
Right.
Then they'll give you. Then you got to search around because the good information is hard to find. So it's a lot of bad information out there and a lot of times things just like you found out are easier than what people are telling you that it is to do.
Right. I mean, and we were able to get the American Canoe Association to help us decide how to build them and where we should put them. And, you know, they located them. And so they were excited about the project. So it really.
Specifically, where are they?
There is one right down here next to the train trestle. And then the other one is behind Ray Charles.
Behind Ray Charles.
Mm-hmm.
Behind Ray Charles.
Ray.
Ray Charles.
Hey, Charles.
His birthday's next
Will
week.
we be able to see it?
Right, it's next week?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Awesome.
We'll have some social media to go with that.
Awesome. We love Ray Charles.
We love Ray Charles.
Love Ray Charles.
Mm-hmm.
Our actually have a beer coming out.
We do have a new beer coming out.
Really?
Have you heard about this new beer?
No.
Oh, it's delicious. You should taste it.
I should.
It's
It's
good.
a rye.
It is a rye.
It's a rye.
Rye Charles. Rye
Ray
Charles.
Ray Charles. This is actually going to be our beer.
Yeah.
So
I like
we love
that.
Albany. We love things that are about Albany. We're a positive positive building up Albany.
We
And
are.
that is another great thing about Albany.
Yes, it is.
That great music and
It
great
really is.
great
And-
person,
and,
human being
uh,
came out of Albany.
Oh, it's amazing. And a lot of people don't know that.
That's
I
right.
told my daughter that just this past year, and brought her and my son out. It's amazing. They were like, "Man, this is awesome. This is in our hometown." I know, it's amazing. And
You
he
say you
sings.
sing? Don't you sing?
No, I'm not
Yeah,
gonna.
come on, George.
Yeah.
You sing a little. Come on, give us a little.
It doesn't take much to make me turn red.
She
But
just, yeah. Luckily, this is. Oh wait, we are filmed. We
are being filmed.
Yeah, they're all
Yeah.
going
We're
to.
gonna let you sing
No.
the closing
gonna
Ray
let-
Charles song.
Ray
to close us
Charles.
out
But I
with.
will tell you a funny story. We had a couple from Switzerland who came to a Disney World and drove to Albany just to see the Ray Charles Plaza because they
Yeah.
were a huge fan of Ray Charles, and they were in their early 20s.
Yeah,
Kudos.
that's
Yeah.
awesome. And there's more people that do that than you think.
Mm-hmm.
I was down there with some friends of mine, and there was a lady, and she was like, "Will you take a picture of me and my family?" I mean, it was just like,
Yeah.
it was emotional for them, like a pilgrimage type
Yeah.
thing. It was like, wow, that's awesome. It's
Those two
amazing.
wanted to say, they said, can we sleep next to him? I said, across the street at the Hilton.
You look out the window and say goodnight, right?
Yeah.
That's quick on your fate. Sorry.
Yeah.
All right. We're getting long here, but one more thing.
Doesn't seem like it though. It's been
It's
great.
been
It's been
fun.
So
great.
Todd, what is the one of the most rewarding or meaningful things that you have worked on or contributed to?
Oh Lord.
Oh, I should have given you the question
I
beforehand.
know. Good luck.
Spotlight's on you.
But really, earlier you were talking about, I know there's a couple of things that are really passionate to you, or you're really passionate about, and that is the Georgia Grown, the whole thing you're involved with that, as well as coming back home, and you are an instructor at Albany Tech, which I don't think we've really even mentioned yet, and so you're reaching these kids that are interested in culinary arts. Teachers drink beer despite popular opinion.
On a more regular basis than those
Especially
who aren't.
college teachers.
Research for flights and boats.
But I'm just leading you into that. I mean, because I know how passionate you are about that, and you're taking these kids to Ireland that some have never even left Albany, and they've created this passion through your class, and you're taking them. Talk a little bit about that.
So, growing up in Albany, I had the ability. I'm still blessed to this day. I was able to leave Albany and gain knowledge, but I had the mindset to know that, home is where the heart is. I came back. I love Albany. I was born here. I know that. I think I had what I want. I learned what I want to teach my kids here. Mm-hmm. So I came back, and I want to be able to give those, the people growing up here that, some of them you talked about not knowing. People from Albany don't know where certain things are in Albany. Mm-hmm. I'm amazed when I ask most students,
Right.
like, have you ever been there? No, we ain't never been there. I'm like, good Lord, what?
We got what?
Exactly. So history is involved in what I teach them, but I want them to understand how important Albany is. Albany is a mecca to me for everybody outside of, within 45 minutes of Albany, or outside of Albany we're still the mecca for that area. We're the city. We're going to the city, we're going to town. Albany's it, so just being able to take them to outside of their comfort zone, outside of the box, to be able to bring that information back and share, to me is everything, because I want them to be able to really appreciate where they're from, and they won't appreciate it until they leave it.
Right.
But don't leave it permanently. You come back and you give back. So if they can go out and learn something, bring it back, and share it, I think that's the only way this community can grow outside of that. I hate calling it a box, man. I hate calling it a box at all.
Yeah.
But that's what the hell it is.
Yeah.
It's a cage. I mean, it's uncaging your brain, You got to
Right.
think outside of that, and you got to be able to, don't do what you normally do. Take a different route home, whatever. Just go see something different. So getting out of the car, going looking at stuff, I love that. I mean, hitting on everything everybody said, I agree completely, because the only way you can grow is to change, and that's gotta happen. Mm-hmm. And I'm in for the long run. I am. I will not. I love my hometown. You know,
Yeah.
it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Well,
We
we're
want
lucky
to
to have
continue
you.
to make it better.
We're lucky to have both of y'all.
We're
So-
lucky to have y'all.
Anytime anybody gives me a reason not to, I say, yeah, you know what? There are no dams given.
We give no damn.
All right. So you got to finish. So what's the most rewarding or meaningful thing you've worked on?
So for me, the most important thing and meaningful thing for me is the Civil Rights Institute. The Miss Rutha Harris is, she is a phenomenal, not only singer, but person. And, there was never a whole lot of attention given towards the Civil Rights Institute. And, I think that when I started going and taking travel writers, it just became a huge passion for me because you don't know where you are, if you don't know where you've been. And I think that it's important for people to understand that. And the Freedom Singers came out of Albany. That is a huge crown jewel for us. And it is a huge part of our history. And it just became something that I was very passionate about. There's a lot of things, again, back to the you don't know what you don't know. And it goes back to, and it became, the Civil Rights Institute became my baby. And the Freedom Singers became my baby. And I promoted them like I promoted the river. And I just took hold of it and took them to Atlanta. The state got involved and just made, drew that attention. Yeah. Because, again, there are unique things about Albany that no one else has. That's something that we have. That is a crown jewel. That is a tourist destination.
Right.
Ray Charles is a unique piece of our history and, another crown jewel downtown. But with civil rights, Miss Rutha has a wealth of knowledge and a wealth of stories, and the things that you learn over there is just amazing. And I think that, we have created an African American Heritage Trail that, we work with many different people to make happen. And I think that, that is probably the best thing I could have ever, drawn my attention to. My daughter's very passionate about it. Yeah, cool. Miss Rutha's auntie, I mean, we did, the state got involved so much that they highlighted them in one of the videos that they show at the Welcome Center at the Atlanta airport. And one of the videos, a part of the video, if you can imagine, my blonde hair, blue-eyed, porcelain skin, walking with the Freedom Singers, and singing and clapping on stage and, just showing that, we are not where we used to be. And that's a big deal to me.
You mean as a community?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that just shows
when one of us is successful, we're all successful.
Exactly.
And we were out at Albany State, and that's one of the things we're talking about. I mean, it is so to understand the symbiosis of how all of us are together, and if some of us aren't doing well, then none of us are doing well.
Right.
So we all have to. And if we all think that way, then the community, the culture, everything gets better. Mm-hmm. And so what a great place to end. So the No Dams Given podcast, where we do give a damn.
Yes.
We do give it.
We do give a damn.
But sometimes we give no damn.
We give no damn.
But before you clap it out, man, this was awesome.
Yeah.
Love y'all.
Very good.
Appreciate
it. Yeah, that was awesome.
Trip, come on in. That was good. That was good.